Option sets, what are they? I want to start with an illustration. I'm just going to drag in a big parent group here, and then I'm going to draw 3 shapes. One is going to be shape admin. Another one is going to be shape controller. Another one is going to be shape viewer. Okay, and we'll all make them different colors as well so that we can tell them apart. Okay, let's say, for the sake of argument, that we only want admin type users to see this blue shape. We only want controller type users to see the green one, and we only want viewer type users to see the red one. Basic user permissions, right? Users have a role, and that role determines what they can and cannot do within the site. Now, the way that we would have done this up until recently, when option sets were added as a new feature to Bubble, was we would actually create a new data type called user role, and we would give it a name like this, which is a text field, and then on the user, we would create a role field which points to the user role, right? So we can create a relationship between those 2 data types. All right, so let me just populate one of these, call it admin. Another one, call it controller, and that's probably enough. Okay, and then on this user, we'll make his role admin manually. Great. Now we could set up a condition that says, only show this shape when the current user's role name is admin. It's a little clunky. I have to, actually type in the text there. And then only show the element when it is visible. Right, here we go. Now it's visible. The problem with this approach is, of course, you saw that I have to actually physically type out the text field there. I can't access the data type directly from this formula. The other disadvantage is that to create new user roles, I either have to go into the database to create them, or I can create some form here on the page which lets me add new admin roles. So option sets really take care of both of these problems for us in a really elegant way. Right, you see now option sets, they work just like your database, right? If this is our database over here, all right, this is our database, then we have this sort of, we can think about it as having a data structure, right? So a user who has an email, right? A question, which has a title, maybe a user role that has a name, okay? And then, on this side of the line, we might have all of the actual users. Right? Well, option sets basically mimic the same thing. Okay? On one side, we can define a value, like a user role, or maybe even a tag. And on the other, we can create that data. Okay, those are our option sets. Now our app, right, which lives up here, now has a choice about what it's going to use as some reference data, or what it's going to use as data, basically. It could take some stuff from the database, or it could take something as an option set. So when would you use option set data over database data? Well, your database, of course, is for storing information that's created dynamically, right? You've got some workflows in your application that write some information to your database, and those workflows are usually triggered by the behavior of your users. In contrast, option sets are for static information. It's data that's not really going to change, right? You might have some user roles, an admin, a viewer, a controller. You know what those roles are going to be up front. So you can just plug them in as an option set. And the beauty of doing it that way, rather than having a table of user roles in your database, is that as option sets, Bubble makes it really easy and intuitive to pull out that information from the option set and use it as reference data when you're writing your workflows and your conditional behavior. So why don't we jump into the application and I'll show you how that works in practice. I'm gonna come over to this option set section over here, which you may have played around with before, and define a new option set called a user role. Okay, now you can define here, you define the fields. All of them come by default with a text field, but I could add in anything else I want here. In our case, all we need is the display. So when I create a new option here, like an admin, this is going to be the display for this option set. So you can think about this as this is the data type itself and this is the data thing. And if there were more fields, okay, if there were more attributes, attribute example, let's create another one here, okay, then I can add this here. So I can create a new one here, controller, and another one here, viewer. All right, now where the real power of the option sets comes in is that I can get rid of this expression, which is very tenuously linked to an evaluation of a text field or a text value. And then instead I can say, well, first, just like I have created a link between the user and the user role data type, which I will rename data, role data. I'll create another one here, which is the option set value, just as a contrast. And you see now I have user role data, that's the one that we created in the database, and user role is our option set option, which for clarity, I will name option set. Okay, so now our user is pointing both at the data and at the option set, but we can ignore the data for now, and we can instead just come over here and say when the current user's role option set is, and then I can actually pick here directly from the range of options that I have previously defined. Is admin, then this element is visible. Now, I haven't defined this in the database yet, so I will do that. And I will say when this uses option set, so I can literally just choose from a drop down here and then preview that. Boom, there we go. It is showing. And for this user, maybe I want them to be a controller. And this user, I want them to be a viewer. Then I can set up the same, I'll just copy this expression. I can set up the same kind of thing over here. Is admin or is controller? Is viewer. This element is visible. This element is visible. And now if I run as one of these guys, if I run as this other user, then the green one appears. So instead of having this rather laborious and not particularly robust setup for user roles or whatever else it might be in the database, we're defining them directly here in the option sets tab. And this has real bearing for our existing app because we have tags, which we've defined as a data type already. I'm going to remove them. I'm going to delete that and I'm going to replace it with a tag in the database. And since we as the app creators are actually defining all of the tags in the site, this is perfectly fine. If we wanted to opt for a user experience where users could create their own tags, then we would still need to rely on the database. We would still have to allow users to create tags directly in the database. You can think of the users as having a direct line of communication to the database, but the users don't have a direct line of communication to option sets. That's something that we as the app creators can control. So let's say we've got a tag and, let's say for the sake of argument as well, we're going to have an image, right? Each tag is going to have an image. So The Sopranos, I'll create that and I'll give it an image. Shawshank Redemption. Okay. And now I can, if I just, delete these shapes and I pull in a repeating group, right, then I can do something cool like insert some text there. I'll make this obviously search for questions and I'll do a search for all questions, right? Okay, we'll populate this with the parent group's questions, title, right? Then I can pull in a drop down and make these dynamic choices and actually set this to the tag that I just created as an option set. So I can actually just choose all tags. I don't need to do a search. The current options display and set this repeating group to have a search constraint, which is that the tags, and I need to set this up in the database first, right? At the moment, it's still referencing the deleted tags. So this is going to be the new tag this is the option set. Okay. So I'll give this guy the Shawshank Redemption tag and the Sopranos tag. And we'll give this guy just the Sopranos tag. Save that. Well, now I can do the search constraint where I say, okay, when the tags contains the drop down's value, right? The tag that's selected in the drop down. And in the next video, we're going to jump over into searches and filters. So don't worry if some of this is a little bit new. Well, now I can create a sort of a simple search, right? I can now choose to find particular questions who have the tag. So we're going to keep this set up because for us, it's really useful to have tags. We obviously don't need user roles, but to have tags defined as an option set. So we're going to expand on this functionality a little bit more in the next video, where we're going to create a little bit more of a robust home page with search and filters.